we go. All right. Welcome to our Cub Scout conversation. It's going to be great. Again, Joan Townsend here joining
Thank you,
us.
Mike, for the introduction, and we're ready to go.
Okay. And the slides are right here. Can everybody see them?
Not yet. There we go.
All right. Joan, it's all yours.
So how do I go to the next slide, Mike?
You just say, Mike, next slide.
Oh, I can't move it? Okay. Oh,
Like that? That was me, by the way.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, we're here to talk a little bit about the Arrow of Light. And as you see, it started in June of 2024, June 1st, exactly. And they went from 5 required adventures and 1 elective to 6 and 2 electives, as you can see there on the screen. If you're all in the Cub Scout world, we all know that Bobcat now is now an adventure. So instead of doing it once and then that's it with the patch, it actually has required adventures for that. Now that's one of the key pieces here for the Arrow of Light program, and we'll get to that when I get to the next slide. But go ahead, Mike, take it away to the next slide. What is the goal of Arrow of Light? Do we all know? The new program is it helps us. It's geared towards getting our scouts ready to become in Scouting BSA. We're moving right into the troop level. So the entire year is programmed that everything we do in Arrow of Light is teaching them about new topics, as you can see, performing some service now, a little bit more than others, leadership development skills, strengthening and learning some outdoor skills. So one of the key goals is to try to get it as close to January as possible. From all the research that I've done nationally and listening to all the podcasts this time last year, National's asking us to try to get to January, which I did this year. We were actually done by November in my group. And then we just did some electives in December and had a lot of fun and then moved on. We crossed over in January 14th. Um, the reason being is so that your new scouts can get immersed into a troop, become familiar with their new friends, and feel comfortable and participate in the troop for, close to 6 months, and so that they're really comfortable and secure and they can head off to camp. Because in the past, some Cub Scouts would cross over maybe late May. We've had some our troop come in June, and then if camp starts in July, they either don't want to go, they don't know anybody. I'm sure you've all had that, right? Uh, Everybody know what I'm talking about on that one. Some kids, even when they cross in April, are still not quite ready and get immersed into the troop. So that's the goal. Has anybody have any comments on that? No? Okay. Next slide,
For
Mike.
for what it's worth, I've seen a scout join in May in spring recruitment, go to summer camp and just be completely
Hmm.
engrossed in scouting and off and running. And then that's still not too late if you have someone who's just finishing fourth grade, starting fifth grade, joining as an AoL, right, Joan? They can finish
Right.
this. So that's
So,
that's the key feature here.
right. Now, I'm not saying you all have to do this. It's just recommended. So I don't want you to walk away saying, Joan said I have to do this. This is we're trying to get to the program to be, excellence. We want to get those kids ready to go. So where do you start as the den leader for AOLs? Well, I'm going to give you my idea, and then I'll chime in and see if maybe you guys have some other already completed a year for AOLs. Then share with that what you've done, and this is what I have done. So I'm trying to help you guys uh, maybe have a better calendar or give some ideas and perks to your calendar. Um, this is a separate year, as I said. It's a new rank for them. It has nothing to do now with Weeblos. They are Arrow of Light Scouts. So where do I start? We go to the next slide. Now, where I started in June, I knew it started June 1st, and I had been going to podcasts like I mentioned to you and talking to people and um, reading up on all the requirement adventures and the electives. We now have to do 2. So I thought it would be a great idea to have a parent meeting. And I think the parents really welcomed that. We had our meeting, it was like the first weekend of June, like June, whatever that Saturday was, June 4th. We had to get together and I just went over the whole new program. What was what was required that we had to do, some expectations that we were going to set. And I talked to the parents about, some commitments that they would have to help with. Now, that doesn't mean coming to the den meetings because the kids are pretty well independent by now. That most of my parents, except for one that might have lived a little further, they just left, the kids came to the meeting and they picked them up. But um, when we're talking about camping, we needed some transportation, we needed some adult help. So that's the part where I say, how do parents support with this program? And again, troop visitations, that's another way that they can support because they're going to have to drive their scout to the troops. And what's the time commitment for this program? And that's when I laid out a calendar for them in June and said, here's what I'm thinking. And are you all okay with that? And they all were. They all thought it was fine. We did the informal meeting with the parents, question and answers, went over anything that they might have thought of. And then we're going to go to the next slide.
Did something get lost in translation on this
Yeah,
slide, Joan? I'm
no,
sorry.
that's fine. It says, how should I plan the year? It's not showing up, but anyway, the first required adventure is the Bobcat. And National recommends that that one be done first. So the Bobcat, has everyone taken a moment to know what the electives are for the AoLs? They are, it's pretty much preparing you for your Cub Scout, for your troop. They learn we have to talk about get to know one another. So we did an icebreaker game and the kids loved it. And then what we did is it worked convincingly. It was really good in the den that I'm in because the following week after my parent meeting was actually a den picnic, wrap up the year. So I asked the parents, can your scouts come 2 hours ahead of time? And they said, sure. So what we did is we cracked out the Bobcat that day of the picnic. And in that meeting, the first thing you do is we talked about patrol method, we talked about scouting, we went over every requirement, and then we really got busy. They learned how to do elections, and it was all, silent. Nobody knew who was voting for anybody else, and they chose a patrol leader, and it worked out really well. The person accepted, and she had 6 kids in the den. And then from that, I explained to them what a code of conduct was, and when you're in the scouting movement, what a troop yell was, a patrol yell was. And so then I gave them a few minutes, like 10 minutes or so, and they said, okay, we're ready. And they went over and they came up with a patrol name, and then they came up with a patrol yell. And so then they stood in front of me and they said, this is our patrol, this is our name, and they shouted out their yell. And it was really funny. They called themselves the Carrots. And it was kind of cute. And they had a cute little yell, and everybody liked it. And then after that, we talked about what a code of conduct was at their level. And I brought some examples for them to kind of look at. And then our patrol leader, she went off to another table again, and they sat around the table, and I was guiding them and just listening to what they were saying. And they came up with a really good code of conduct. And it was short. I have one with me. If I was in person, I brought it to show you all. But here's an example of what they wrote. We will do our best. We will listen to others. We will respect others. We are kind. We work together, we are positive, and we will have fun. And then what she did was she took it home with her and printed it off and brought it to the next meeting, and they all signed it, and they did. They abided by their code of conduct for the rest of the time of the AOLs. And so the Bobcat really was successful to have it done in June. Now,
Can
that's
I
not to
chime
say you
in
can. Hmm?
really quick, Joan? I want to chime in really quick because I love what you did here by bolstering and supporting the idea of these scouts working as a patrol for
Mhm.
their entire time as an arrow of light. And
Yes.
and I've seen in the past sometimes you get to that requirement that says, "Oh, practice being a patrol for a month," and it's kind of done. Well, this is a requirement. Let's just get it done. And what Joan did was she really reinforced that this is an important part of scouting, and it gave them over half a year to practice it, and it's a really neat way to do it. I just wanted to chime in and say that was just really cool thing to hear about. I'm glad you did it.
Well, thanks for chiming in, Mike. I appreciate that. And here was their yell. We are the Carrots. We are proud. We are not afraid to be loud. And that was it. And and then they sat and they drew a flag. And then our patrol leader, She took the responsibility going home and asking her mom to help her make the flag. So every meeting, she brought the flag, and I have a little desktop. She made a little desktop type flag, and I also have a little desktop American flag holder with two holes in it. One was actually from a previous years ago of Girl Scouting. And so we took out the Girl Scout flag, and the kids walked up with their flags. They learned how to, present the flag every meeting, and they would put their patrol flag in the little slot next to the American flag. And they liked doing it. It was really great. They were proud of what they did. And then she led the meeting. She opened it up every meeting with the scout calling the colors, and every meeting she would select a different persons to bring up the flags. So it really ran like a patrol, like maybe a troop. If a troop ran, you know how you pick different kids to or different patrols to bring up your flags. Well, it was always the same patrol, but she rotated her, color guard, and then we would get into the meeting, and then our patrol leader would close the colors, and at the end we would do the scout oath, law, and outdoor code every single meeting. So those kids were rocking and rolling by the time they crossed into the troop. They know it with their eyes closed. They're really I'm really proud of what they did. And being that they did their Bobcat in June, um, I was lucky that all the kids went to summer camp. They all went to Camp Baldwin, and that's where they got the privilege of learning the slingshot, the BB guns, the arrow of light electives are all offered there. So they all cracked out a couple of them. And as soon as they came home, I entered them in Scout Book. So they already had at least 4 electives by the time they got home from summer camp. Some had more, the ones that did swimming and paddlecraft. And they really enjoyed summer camp, and they already had their Bobcat done. So that left us with 5 required ventures to get done by Christmas time. And I'll go to the next slide. And here's what I did for the year, if it interests you here. Again, we complete the Bobcat. And at that first meeting with the parents in June, and at the Bobcat meeting, adventure meeting with the scouts, after we did the actual requirements at both meetings, I started right there and then the first meeting saying, we're going to start troop visitations, because that's part of the Bobcat. You have to visit a troop. And so what I did actually is I went on Be a Scout, and we live in the Beaverton area where my pack is down in central Beaverton. And I kind of went around, got a couple in Hillsborough, picked out troops all throughout Beaverton, and I made a whole list of those troops for the parents. And when I went to Be a Scout, where it shows on the computer where it says then, where they meet, what time they meet, what day of the week they meet, and I made a whole list of that for the parents. And so I sent that home, and every one of I sent a newsletter home after every meeting, and one every before meeting, saying this is what we're going to be doing, this is what we're preparing for, and then let's talk about troop visitations. So as a group, I took them to the troop that I belong to, and they were happy to do that. And then I offered them all these other troops, and I kind of wrote a little thing about them because I do have the knowledge of most of the troops in our district. So I wrote, what they kind of do at each troop. And that helped them too when they made their decisions of where they're going to go. Like, do I want to do this kind of stuff? Do I want to do backpacking or whatever? So they knew kind of an idea where to go and visit and what they would like to do going forward. And we kind of got that done by September. They did the visitations in September. We did a couple visitations in June. You don't have to do them in June, but September worked out really well too. And that's when we started talking about the outdoor adventure, which is a required adventure. And then that one, they do some cooking. They have to play. They have to camp with a troop. So that I kept, sending them information. This troop's going camping here. This troop's going camping there. And and my troop was going camping on this day. So they had the opportunity if they wanted to come with us, or they could choose to all go to Weeblo's Woods, which they did. So this is what we kind of went over in June to get us going and ramped up for when September rolled around. Okay, Mike, go to July. Well,
Should be coming if it's not there
it's
yet.
coming. So in July, they went to camp, they did electives. they did stuff with their family, and I would send the parents the different requirements through email. This, if you guys go camping and you like to fish, here's fishing, that kind of stuff. All the electives, I would send those out as PDFs to the parents. And then if they did electives, I would enter that for them also. So they got the opportunity and the knowledge to get some extra stuff done if they wanted to. And they didn't have to, but they did. And how about the next one, Mike? Oh, wrong way. Thanks. And so August, I know that's a lot of family time and things like that. We actually didn't meet then. Our pack had one activity and they went to it. But if your pack meets then, that's fine. They can get some stuff done, like I said, fishing, or if the family goes swimming, they could get those things done, and that's skip those electives. Put in the scrapbook. So September rolls around. Want to move up to September, Mike? Great. So if you don't finish your pack in June, was to finish it in September, because that's when we could move on to all the extra, the other required adventures. We did finish, some AOLs finished in September, so that's good. Get that done first, and then get right in there and start your required adventures. And I chose to do personal fitness in September. It was nicer weather, and we talked about the different things that they require, as you can see on the form here. We did stretching. They did 30 minutes of some jazzercise or whatever we had on the, whatever, I forget where we put something up on the computer and they just danced and they had a great time. And we went over all the requirements in personal fitness then. And then they had a little calendar sheet that I gave out. So they can record their activity of 30 minutes for the next 2 weeks. So then when they were finished, the parents just let me know they finished their activity, and then I entered the personal fitness adventure into Scoutbook. But in that, here's what I would looked ahead. In that adventure, as you see on my slide, it says plan a meal. And what we did, we talked about good planning of a meal at our den meeting, and the patrol leader did all the note taking. She led the group on meal planning, and they sat for a few moments and discussed what would they do if they went on a camp out and they prepared a meal. So she wrote it all down. And then when we were finished the meeting, I said to her, now, why don't you keep hold of that menu? Because it's going to be coming around the corner and you'll be needing it. And they said, okay. So she kept track of that. And then we went into October. October, they chose all to go to Weeblo's Woods. Let's see what John, I have to drop. Thanks. Let me see what, I think Josh had a question.
Yeah, Josh has to drop out.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just a comment. It's not a question. You can look at it at the
Yeah.
end. But
Oh,
thank you
okay.
so
Thanks,
much.
Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks for supporting, Josh. October, they all chose to go to our district, Weeblo's Woods, and that was great. So we went to Weeblo's Woods. They camped with a troop. We all camped together. It happened to be the troop that I belonged to because I was there. And they cooked their meal at lunchtime, whatever they planned in September. So that took care of the first adventure and the camping adventure, the outdoor
And
adventure.
and to
So
be
they
clear,
wound up
this
getting
this
two
is
done.
so,
Hmm?
sorry, Joan. I want to butt in real quick for everyone. This is actually a really critical point on
Hmm.
how Joan finished this particular requirement and did it, well, not pouring down rain in December, is to go ahead and make it happen at Weeblos Woods, and to think ahead about how to do that. Right, that was really critical.
Hmm. Thank you, Mike. Um, and if anybody here in this group went to Weeblo's Woods, you in the past or even last year, you probably know that the meals were included. And I shared that with the parents. I said, I know we're paying, a certain amount of money to go to Weeblo's Woods, but we are so, whatever the lunch is, we can have it like for a snack later or whatever. But our den is going to camp at our campsite. And they did. And after the meal, we sat and did our debrief. What would you do better? What went well? What did we forget? Guess what they forgot? They forgot plates. And they all looked at, they started cooking their meals and it was like, oh, but some of the, like, Madeline, our patrol leader, actually brought her mess kit. But Some decided to say, "Oh, I'll go in and see if I can grab a paper plate from somebody." They were really resourceful. And one girl said, "Well, I'll just go get some paper towels." And so she just put it down. And I mean, they were really resourceful for themselves because they had to think outside the box. What did I
I was going to
forget?
ask if they had made soup, that could have been a bigger problem.
Well, the meal wasn't it wasn't very extravagant, but they chose it, and it was fruit and um, some snacks and some hot dogs. But it was a good meal. It was a good little meal. They all ate. They ate the whole meal, and they had a great time. And we did it right at the campsite. And we had, of course, adult supervision, just helping them and watching them and doing the propane tank and stuff like that for the stove. But it was a great experience for them. They really enjoyed themselves. They learned again what could we do better, and that was what was here for. We're here to learn and how could we do better. So it wasn't for me to say, well, I'll just cook your meal or we'll go into the dining hall. But they felt like really proud of themselves by getting it done at Weeblo's Woods. And they didn't really care that they didn't go into the dining hall. And they really didn't care that they didn't sleep in the cabins either, because they wanted to get their adventure done. And they slept with a troop in tents that they put up themselves with some, if they needed help, they got help. Some didn't need help, some did, because some were already previous campers, big time campers. And it worked really well. Okay, next slide. So in October at the Den meeting, one of the required adventures is citizenship and duty to God. So I kind of looked at those side by side. And yes, we did all the requirements in them, but there was a couple that you could cross and match up. In the citizenship one, they have to do their service project. But in the duty to God is talk to a representative in a faith-based organization and how they provide a service to the community. So I actually took the lead on that one to make the call. So I called a food pantry that's affiliated with a church and asked if we could come and help. And they said, sure. And I said, the other requirement is to have a conversation and learn what you guys do to support the community and how you help others. And she says, no problem. So they did their 2 hours of service, and then they all sat around, and the person from the organization sat and talked to them. It was a good conversation. She did questions and answers. She told them how she helped their organization helps the community, and so that got that one elective out of duty to God done. And then the only other part was the two discussions that you do with your family at home. So the kids went back and talked to their parents, and then the parents all emailed me and said, we just had our little, discussion. And so I said, okay, because the adventures aren't really that big. Like duty to God's only three little things. Talk to your family, and I forget what the third one was, and then do the discussion with the faith-based organization. And so we kind of did that and the service project all on the same time and so we got two more required electives done in October, in addition to our Camping with Weeblo's Woods, because that was a weekend. And then this den meeting was our den meeting when we did this. So am I talking too fast with everybody, or any questions?
I think you're good so far. Thank you.
Okay. So how about, so now we're down to one more required adventure. That was it. So let's go to November and you'll see what we did. It's cold in November and rainy here in Oregon. So we did our first date adventure in someone's house. And they did their first date things. You had to demonstrate on each other. I took some ACE wraps and things like that. I'm a nurse, so I happen to have a couple first aid kits at the house because I teach CPR too and do first aid merit badge. But you could do anything with any type of splint. And most people have a first aid kit that you can help your kids with. So it's like help with the sprained ankle and show how you would wrap this and that. So they did that amongst themselves. They all paired off 1, 2, 1, 2, and they did all their I demonstrated and they did their demonstrations. Um, they had to bring me the copy of and show me their first aid kit that they had at home. And if they didn't, there was one scout that didn't. And so he said to me, "Oh, Mrs. Townsend, I still need to bring that to you because you're very honest." I said, "Okay." So then he brought it to me to the next meeting. He said, "Here's my first aid kit." We went over it and what the contents were inside. And I said, "That's a good thing." And all they had to do was watch the Protect Yourself video. So that's a 20-minute video. I'm sure you're all familiar with those now at each level. The parents actually all gave me permission So at our meeting, after we did all the first aid to conversations and we talked all about first aid and did our wrappings, we watched the video and they asked questions and they talked about it. And then they went home and told their parents because I had asked the parents permission if they could just do that. And then I knew that they were all done and I entered the required adventure in Scout Book.
Hey, Joan, I have a question if you have a second.
Hmm. Yeah.
So your scouts had the luck of having a nurse with a lot of experience help out and teach the first aid adventure. Do you have any
Hmm.
thoughts on if we have a den leader who is not comfortable and or not as knowledgeable on first aid items and topics? What kind of
Uh-huh.
resources do we have in our community that people might reach out to be able to leverage someone who knows this stuff? What do you think?
Well, I think that well, a lot of things obviously you can get by just Googling online, you know, and it'll tell you, what each thing is like for first aid merit badge, you
Hmm.
can Google everything that's listed in there for hypertension, hyperthermia, and et cetera, et cetera. But they could always call me if they knew that, and I could help them. I could give them any type of tools that they might need, or just teach them, and then they could teach the kids. I, it, that's what I would suggest. Or if
Okay.
they have somebody else, like a friend that might be a paramedic, could come and help.
I was
Um,
going to suggest, I've seen this done in the past, where a den leader who isn't comfortable with first aid reaches out to a troop nearby, and this provides another
oh
opportunity to
yeah.
connect with the troop and say, "Hey, your scouts know, if not all of this stuff, at least most of it. Can I bring my den to your
Hmm.
troop meeting once or twice, and we can go over? I mean, really, one troop meeting would probably cover most of it,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh, it's
So
only, yeah.
I wanted to give people an opportunity to think outside the box of we don't have to do this ourselves as a den. You can
Hmm.
reach out to your resources, your troops nearby,
Hmm.
people that you know. You could go talk to a paramedic, an EMT, go to a fire station and ask if they're willing to have your scouts come if you want to. But I think going to a troop is a really good way to make another connection and
Hmm.
have those scouts come in and see how a different troop works and kind of get that further excitement. Oh, they know
Yeah.
first aid. That's cool.
Well, thanks, Mike. Yeah, I did know that. I just didn't I I didn't think to say it, but that's why I said this is an open forum. Just everybody has their, an idea here for me. There's 5 requirements. Well, the protect yourself video, of course, and the first aid kit. But the ones that you have to know is like what to do if someone is in need of first aid, and demonstrate what would you do for the hurry cases, bleeding, heart attack, cardiac arrest. Demonstrate how to help a choking victim and demonstrate how to treat shock. So like Mike said, all your first class scouts will probably know all that from doing either the first aid merit badge or the requirements for tender, second, and first class. They're all covered in what we have to do here for AoLs. And so going to a troop, or asking the troop come to us, you get a couple kids from a troop. Uh, and if you need a troop, there's always people for resources to say, oh, there's like 5 troops in your area. Like I said, I just looked on Be a Scout online and listed out about 20 of them all around, including Hillsborough, because I didn't know where people lived. And there was actually one boy who was going to go out to Hillsborough Troop because his cousin's going there. So that's why I kind of gave a whole broad choices for the families. And those troops are great to share with, and they have fun with the Cubs. And there's also a first aid, usually a setup at Weeblo's Woods too, Mike. Usually a troop will do a first aid scenario.
Yeah, do they focus on requirements like this, or is it more of a here's kind of a quick demo? I
It's
think like
quite a
three,
quick demo, but like I said,
yeah,
some of these are pretty easy. And if we kind of prepped one of them ahead of time, we could always take advantage of.
true, yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to springboard off of your comment of having the troop come to you as a den. That sounds a lot like a den chief, and
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
sad that we haven't seen as many den chiefs post COVID, to be honest, since before. Reach out to a troop near you and see if you can get an older scout that's willing to come and help your den. And
Hmm.
this is exactly the kind of stuff that scout would be helpful and willing to lend a hand if you don't have a registered nurse who's there
Hmm.
to be a part of it. So thank you.
Hmm. Okay. Next slide. So we come to December, and we had actually all our stuff done in our calendar. But if you don't, that's where you can use that month to finish anything that you might have dangling out there. They could have one adventure left over, or one part of an adventure left over. But we used that we talked about crossover, what to expect at our crossover. I had purchased arrows for them, and they all got an arrow kit. We chose to send them home with them and they could work on them over the winter break. But you could do that at a DEM meeting if you wanted to. So that's another option. There's a couple fun electives. I just wrote those down. Estimations. These take like a few minutes, 15 minutes. It's just estimating, certain things. And then high tech outdoors is looking at your phone and doing like a weather app, and then they looking at the weather and deciding if it was good to camp on that day or something. And that was really easy. And they had a lot of fun with that one too. And so we did both of those, and they had fun. So they liked getting their pins, and then they wound up just getting their arrows. And when we had our crossover, I got the arrows ahead of time, and we gave them out at the crossover in January, and then we crossed over in January.
So before we jump to January, Joan, I had a question. In
Mhm.
terms of December, you're deliberately targeting January for the scouts to join a troop. When do you start to really ask the scouts to make a decision on which
Oh,
troop they're
back to
going to
November.
join? Okay, back
I,
to November.
yeah,
I
go
mean,
slide back. I
did
put it in
did
bold
did I
there.
miss it?
Yeah, I
Sorry.
did too. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
You don't
Okay.
have to do this, but they should really have made decisions by now
Yeah.
because
It's
people start
it's
getting,
yeah.
we've had visitations. We talked about troops. Every meeting I would talk about troops, like I told you.
Mhm.
And I have like tons of emails that I saved all my emails to my parents. I'm happy to share them with anybody.
Yeah.
You could copy anything that I wrote. I'm happy to, if you just send me an email, I'll share with what I wrote. But every email that I wrote would say, let's talk about your troop. Have you made a decision yet? Have you talked to your scout? Where would you like us to go to visit? And so it was one of those every meeting type sidebar conversations to the kids and to the parents.
So for what it's worth, in my older youth's den, we had 11 scouts, and one of them, every single troop that he visited was his favorite troop.
Oh
And he
yeah.
could not for the life of him make a decision. I see Eva nodding her head. She's been through this. Um, and this is where you get into if you get to December and the scout is waffling and the scout isn't sure, it's definitely worth, in my opinion, talking to the parents and saying, "Hey,
Mhm.
what do you think? What do you see?" And you can have some of those conversations in the open and say, "Look, what are you
Mhm.
thinking? Right? What do you like about this troop versus that troop?" I think that's what Joan's alluding to, right? In terms
That's
of
what yeah. I
compare and
started that
contrast.
right in
Yeah,
June. That's when I started when I gave him a list of
yeah,
like, that, this troop does a lot of this troop does a lot of that. And I know a
right.
lot of people don't know that. But it's easy
True.
to get some of those informations. And then another way to glean those informations is at the Weeblos Woods, where all the
Yep.
troops that in the neighborhood are down there. And, as a leader, you can walk around and visit them and say, oh, 162, tell me what your main focus is.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then Mike would tell me.
Right.
And each troop has their sign up, and you can say, oh, 592. Oh, what do you like to do?
Hmm.
You guys
Hmm.
like to do a lot of Dutch oven cooking. Oh, okay. Let's put that down on paper. So we in addition to me, giving them information when we were at Weeblos Woods, we walked around and visited every troop. And of course, then they did like a half a dozen, like Mike said, because everybody likes everybody,
So
and everybody's friends.
when you get to December, Joan, and you've had your scouts pretty much make decisions,
Mhm.
are you reaching out to those scoutmasters at that point
Yes.
and saying, "I've got X number of scouts ready, and we're going to cross over"? So that's you want to give them about a month
I gave him a
headroom,
month's notice. And then I
right?
even
Which is
gave him the
perfect.
hard stop date. Back in early
Nice.
December, I said, this group is crossing over on January 14th.
Right.
Can you schedule that for your crossover and
Right.
come? And they knew
Absolutely.
it ahead of time. The PLC knew it in the first week of December because when they
Perfect.
meet once a month. So it's good to let them know so that they can pick some, troop reps to come
Hmm.
and the scoutmasters and ASMs to come and greet those kids as they cross that bridge and do what each troop does. Each troop has their own way of greeting the new
Hmm.
kids, and they're all good. Everyone is good.
And for what it's worth, really quickly, I will say, in my experience, every pack behaves a little bit differently in who does the reaching out. As
Hmm.
committee chair for my pack, I did it, and
Mm,
Joan knows everyone pretty much to a certain degree in this district, so I'm sure she was willing to reach out. Some of our pack den leaders aren't familiar with what's outside of their pack, right? They
right.
don't unless they go to roundtable and meet people, and that's where you need to start using your resources, like Joan says, reach out to me, reach out to Joan, reach out to somebody, and figure out who you need to be talking to. If your Billy Cub Scout or Bonnie Cub Scout wants to go to Troop 123, who's over there? Who do I need to reach out to make sure that happens? Because when you get to January, you want to have things smooth and ready to go, right, Joan?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like some of these kids, they know some things like, oh, my older brother went to this troop. Like we had somebody in our pack say, oh, my father was in this pack in this troop. So, fast forward 20 some years later, he joined that troop for that reason. And that's good. So his sister next year will probably go into the same troop. And so some kids already know which one they want to go to, but they still can visit the troops at Weeblo's Woods with you and still have fun and still find out what other troops are doing. And then they still might know which one they still want to go to. Right, Mike? So I
Sorry,
think,
got to find unmute. Absolutely, 100%.
yeah. And, we can there's always somebody to ask. So never hesitate. If you don't know anything, and if your pack doesn't, maybe their committee, you can have your committee chair reach out to somebody like me or Mike, and we can help guide them because that's what we're here for. I've been doing advancement for over 20 years and I got to know a lot of people, and Mike's been around a long time too. So we're here to help disseminate information to others and help you guys uh, be more successful and have a good program year. So I have one more slide, I think. And there we go. They're ready to go into troop and they're going to have a lot of fun. And my group was really happy. And they've already have, I think a couple of them only have like two more things to get signed off for scout. The reason this program, they should be able to get their scout signed off like within a month because everything in the scout requirements for the rank of scout, we've covered in our patrol, in our den here at the AoLs. They knew as soon as they walked in, a couple of them said, "Oh, I know all about the patrol method. Can I get this signed off? I know this, I know that. I know my scout oath and law." It was good to just keep repeating everything, every den meeting, all the time, and they just felt good about it, and they're all excited about getting their scout rank real quickly here. They haven't been over there. It'll be a month tomorrow, and I think they're ready to get some signed off for their rank to
I'm going
get
to go
their
ahead and
SM call.
stop sharing. As much as I love this slide, I want to see everybody's reactions. This is a
So
great
that,
presentation, by the way, Joan. Thank you. I want to open it up and make sure everyone has a chance to ask
sure,
questions
absolutely.
or comments or anything in terms of your experience, what you've seen, anything like that. Joan's here to help.
Anybody questions? Yes, Eva.
Yeah, so of my 12, I think everybody is crossing over to the troop that is at the location where the pack is.
Hmm.
Um, except for my own kid
Okay.
is on the fence. He really likes both troops, two troops,
Hmm.
and the he's sitting here with me because it's so hard, and as a
It
mom
is.
I'm just not sure what to say because the other troop that he really likes, it's a little further out for us, but I'm willing to drive it, so it's
Mhm.
only 20 minutes, it's fine. And but it's small, it's 17 kids, but there's a couple kids that are his age that have already kind of come over. And then one is coming over, I think, end of this month. That's a girl, and it's part of the pilot program.
Hmm.
But the activities he really likes, and he really loves the service of like fund. And then the other troop at our location is they do one event, one fundraiser, and they're like 70 plus. So basically he wants to scout with his friends, but he really wants to go to this other troop because their fundraising activities sound so fun. And he doesn't want to miss out on that, but he's been with these scouts, 9 of the 12 of them since kindergarten. So
Well,
as a mom, I'm not sure, what to do.
so scouting is making new friends,
Hmm.
right? And keeping the old. And so if it's you visited both troops probably more than once, I'm hoping. Saw how
Uh,
they function.
yeah. Hmm.
Okay, good. And I would just recommend what he really wants, but you always remind him that the old friends will still stay friends. If he goes to the troop that seems to be more attractive to him, um, he'll make good friends there and
Mhm.
establish memories at the new troop, and he can still stay friends with the old troop because they're all going to still have the same theme. They're all scouts. And
Mm,
some events like Camporee, Weeblo's Woods, you're going to see all the troops come together. And
Yeah.
it doesn't say that he can't visit his friends and still hang out with them on Saturday,
mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And when you're registered in a any unit, and Mike, I tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think I'm wrong on this one,
Go
but
ahead.
once you're a registered scout, you're a scout.
This is
And like
true.
we,
Yeah.
you know, and I mean, we had a girl come over from Sunnyside to my troop because she wanted to do something with my troop, and it's like, okay, that's fine. You're a registered scouter. You can do this.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
if his other pack, his other troop has an activity that's like really enticing, and as much as his friends are going, there's nothing stopping you from asking that leader of that group to say, "Hey, can my son join for that weekend or
Yeah.
whatever?"
okay.
It might be a day event. Maybe they're just going bowling. I don't know. I don't know what kind of troop the activities they do. I just know from being in scouting for such a long time, um, my kids were all in one troop, but two of my kids were venture scouts,
Mm,
and in addition to scouts.
Yeah.
mm,
And when I say venture, my daughter was in three venture crews
mm,
because one was strictly rafting and one was a little bit of everything. So she
mm.
could go and pick and choose what she wanted to do. Now, of course, she was older than your son
Right.
because she didn't join until she was 18. But the thing is,
Uh,
it didn't matter where she went. She just had fun with that group.
so if you don't
But
mind, I have a different perspective I'd like to share with Eva.
sure.
If you can hear me okay, my bandwidth is like stretched
No,
right
you're
now.
good.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So Eva, I always tell scouts, and I hope your son's listening,
He
Yes,
to
he's
is.
right here.
to go where you feel like you're home.
Yeah.
If you have people that you go to a troop meeting and they greet you and they're happy to see you, you can't go wrong. And if there's two different places where you feel like that, that's awesome. And I want to mention that you do want to choose a primary troop. And what Mrs. Townsend is talking about is, in
Mhm.
terms of having somebody participate with multiple different units, we do have scouts in our district who belong to more than one troop,
Oh.
and it's you can actually do that. You can multiple
Mhm.
over, and you kind of want to have one be your primary and where you do most of your advancement, but you can do the fun and exciting stuff in a different troop. The hard part there is that fundraising needs to stick within the chartered
Mhm.
organization. So there's a little bit of if you're going across to a different troop for fundraising, that's a little bit silly, I guess. But if they're doing a high adventure, if they're going to a summer camp, they're doing campouts that you really want to go and do those things, there's no reason why you can't multiple be registered in two different troops and be able to pick and choose. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be, oh gosh, I have to have two different uniforms. I got to unsew this and sew that. No, no, no. We're all friends in scouting, right?
Hmm.
And maybe even doing that for a little while will help you realize, oh, this troop over here is the one that I really feel good about, and might help you give you more time to make the ultimate decision. So that is an option for what it's worth.
Does that help? Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Happy to be here to help.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then my other question is, so we're doing our crossover a little late. We're doing it in March 20th.
Mhm.
Um, and then we can probably do it a little sooner, but they with 12, it's
Mhm.
they couldn't get all their requirements and stuff together. So that we're finishing up the end of the month actually. Um, and so how do you do a ceremony? I missed that part too. And we're doing our blue and gold banquet at the same
Mhm.
time, but I want it to be like special, you know?
Oh, yes.
Um,
So that you asked a couple questions on that one. Well, first, I do want to just preface my answer with this is the first year of the new program. So
right.
don't feel bad that you're going in March. It's not a big deal. But what we want to try to do is going forward, get everybody sooner than later. You're the only one, March. I heard somebody the other day they're going to go in May. So it's okay. You'll be
Hmm.
fine. It's just that the new program is designed to get them into troops sooner, to get more comfortable. That's the only reason, okay?
Okay.
So you're good. Don't worry about that. Now, if you give me are you the den leader for AOLs?
Yes.
Okay. Can you give me or Mike, does Mike have your email?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I can give you Eva's email. Sure.
Okay, so Eva, I could send you some ideas. Would
Okay.
would you like that?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
So let me
Yeah.
chime in really briefly. I think Joan's gonna have some good ideas. Recognize that the Arrow of Light completion ceremony is one
Separate.
thing,
Right. I'll send both.
and the crossover or bridging is a different thing. A lot of us do them kind of together back to back.
Mhm.
And I always like to say that with the Arrow of Light, you're looking back on what they've done and you're celebrating their accomplishments. And then you turn they cross over the bridging, whatever you want to call it, and you're looking ahead and you're
Right.
having them welcomed into a troop. There are lots of different opportunities and ceremonies. I'm sure Joan will send you some good ones.
Mhm.
There's really no wrong way to do it. My pack did the pack that I was in. We did the Arrow of Light ceremony, and then we handed it off to a troop that scouts were joining. It didn't have to be every single troop. If I had like a big den joining 5 or 6 different troops, pick one and ask them to do something for you. It's a great way to bring them in, and usually the scouts are kind of happy to put on a show. In
Mhm.
fact, I think we had 124 do that one year
Yeah.
for me,
That's the one I'm
and
going to send you.
and it was great, and the Cub Scouts love to see. Oh, it's an older scout. It's like it's almost like an older brother putting on a show for them, and it's a lot of fun. So I'll make sure that Joan gets your email, Eva, and she can send that information to you.
Yeah. Eva,
Okay.
I have a arrow of light ceremony, like Mike said. And what we did was we gracefully, it was like, so we just kind of just, we did that and you make a real big deal because that is your pinnacle of Cub Scouts.
Right.
That's why you're there, right?
Yeah.
And then some kids choose not to go on, but they still get their arrow of light ceremony. Okay.
Right.
And
Right.
then we gracefully I just kind of like took my hand. I said, okay, AOLs, have a seat like right here. And there was a little bench. So
Mhm.
then we slowly transitioned and it was a little smooth transition. It was really nice. Parents sat down after they did the pinning and this and that, and I'll send all that to you. And
Okay.
then the troop came forward. I invited the troop forward. And then, like Mike said, they put on a
Yeah.
little candle show. I had electric candles because you can't light a candle in a school building, but
Mhm.
it was electric, but they were color coded for the color arrow light colors.
Okay.
And they did that, and then they one by one went up on the bridge and got their picture taken. I'll send all that to you.
Okay.
Quick
And
question for Eva.
yeah.
Eva, I have 2 emails for you, Yahoo and Gmail. Which one do you prefer?
Yahoo, please.
Yahoo it is. Thank you.
Mhm.
Does anybody else have questions? Heather?
Well, I have a little bit of a different situation. I have one arrow of light that I've been supporting this year. Our pack shrank, and
Mm-hmm.
I had sort of anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I've had trouble helping him get his requirements met because he doesn't show up to every meeting, and some of the things are just really hard to do with one scout.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've kind of worked our way through the patrol method, what it should look like using. I am fortunate enough that my son's a den chief, so we kind of worked through some of that.
Mm-hmm.
But things like the camping requirement, I don't have anybody for him to go camping with, and getting him to show up at scout troop visitations has been very difficult. And I just wonder if you have any advice on how to keep him engaged long enough to finish his requirements and maybe still cross over to a troop.
So, well, there's a couple things I can think of really quick, and then we can always talk later offline, Heather, because you know me from Wood Badge, and I'm happy to help you. But first question, does this scout want to be a scout?
He definitely wants to
Okay.
be a scout.
Okay.
His father is busy, which is part of the problem, and his mom and sister is really involved in Girl Scouts, so that's taking a lot of their time right now.
Okay. Well, we could probably figure out uh he does have to camp. And if we could get somebody from another, I wonder if there's another pack that he could join for that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Find another pack to bolt up to, right?
It is nasty weather right now, of course,
Yeah.
as you while we're on Zoom, but he does have to do the camp out for the outdoor adventure. Now you don't, again, this is the first year. You could be one of the outliers. It's fine. There's nothing to be ashamed about. The goal is to get this kid satisfied and achieve recognition. we're not going to just say, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore because it's February. We're going to he wants his recognition. I don't care if we do it in May. So what can we do with with another pack? Like, is there a family, like a lot of packs go, like my pack's going family camping in April. I know it's a little, I think they're going to Clark. So
Yeah.
that's an opportunity to camp and somebody can cook with him if he planned the meal.
Can I ask Heather a question real quick too? I know Heather, you're in a bit of a transition point in
Hmm.
your boys scouting. Did this scout identify a troop that he's interested in? It's a young man, right?
It is.
Yeah.
He's only visited one troop
Okay.
Hmm.
and he really liked it. I want him to visit the one that my middle son's going to now, so
Okay.
at least he can see what another troop looks like. Um,
That's okay. If he wants
Yeah.
to go with that one, that's
Yeah.
fine.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. If he could bolt into and work with the scoutmaster there and say, "Hey, I've
Yeah,
got an Arrow of Light scout that wants to come
just needs a
along,"
camp.
they'd be happy to have him, I think.
Oh, sure, sure.
yeah, I mean, the one troop I was told that they aren't allowed to camp overnight if they're not registered.
Well, they could go as help me with this, Mike. Well,
Yeah, that
they would. It
changed
still has to
actually.
function as a Cub Scout pack. So someone
Yeah,
like you that has to be Baloo trained has to go with him, and you have to
right.
have two deep leadership for him.
So
You
I,
know,
I think they're referencing what was printed previously about camporees. There was language that Cub Scouts cannot stay overnight at
right?
camporees anymore, but we do have Cub Scouts come, and if he's the one Arrow of Light Scout, I don't think anybody's going to say, "Oh, that's not operating as a pack." He's there to visit and understand
Yeah.
what it is to be a troop member. I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with that. But yes, he needs the adult leadership, and preferably somebody who's blue trained. I'm going to be willing to bet that somebody in that troop has had blue training, and that never
Hmm.
expires.
Right.
You can probably find somebody to be like, "I'll be your blue person, no problem."
And then, Heather, there's you're in the district, we have that email group, the IO group.
Hmm.
I mean, if you really get, like, I send stuff out saying advancement team's looking for more help, right? Um, there was a troop in another area completely over by your way that sent out an email a couple of years ago that said, we're going to Philmont and we need more leadership. He didn't have enough leadership. So my daughter Megan saw that on the email and said, well, I'll reply back to him. So she did. And he liked her and he says, well, you've been to Philmont more than me. And so I'd love to take you as my leader. So she signed up with a troop, people she didn't even know. So where I'm going at is if we advertise, and so she went and they had a great time and that was it. But if we advertise on the IO group, hi, I have a scout that needs to join what other pack out there? Is there another pack in the vicinity going camping to family camp? Because if you're going family camp, like I said, my pack's going family camp and I think it's like April 15th.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, you're welcome to join them. They're going to Camp Clark for the night.
So the
Okay.
key for that, Joan, is that this is to camp with the troop, though, right? So that if you're doing pack family
Oh,
camping, you have
that's
to have a
right. Oh,
troop
shoot.
next door. Now
No,
this
that's
could
why
work.
yeah.
This could work. There could be a troop right next door, even a
Yeah.
patrol, and that could work, right? But
Yeah,
you have
that's
to make
it.
sure you tie that together. So that's a key point.
But
That's why I say I think it might be easier to go to the troop that he's interested in and say,
yeah,
"Hey,
that's
can
true.
can he visit?" That's my thought process.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was not thinking clearly. I'm so sorry.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I know.
All right, I'll
I'll
try to
throw the
get
answer.
creative. I'll try to get creative
Yeah.
with some of that and see
Oh,
if I
no,
can.
no. It says with your patrol or a Scout BSA troop, participate in a camp out.
Yeah.
So
So
who
he is his whole patrol.
is he the whole
Okay.
patrol?
He's the whole
Okay.
goal, so can he just go camping and
Yeah.
I
You know
guess.
what? You got to make it work.
spirit?
Yeah,
I,
there's no,
I I I think there's something to be said about getting him to participate with a troop outing
yeah,
of some kind. There's benefit there, as opposed to him
it is.
going
It
with
is.
his den leader and his parent or whatever. It's just there's less there, right?
See,
I'd
yeah.
yeah,
See, because
Yeah.
like the Bobcat was with the patrol, with the Bobcat is you had to visit a BSA troop.
yeah,
So
which he's done.
contact, you could contact that troop that he likes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Or anyone if you want if they don't have a decent camp out, they might have too vigorous of a camp out coming up. You don't know. But see, ask them first and always put a note out on the IO group and say, hey, we're just looking for help. People are here to help you. And there's not going to be a AOL policeman that's going to be standing there and saying you didn't do this correctly because it's like a lone scout. How do they become eagle, right?
Right.
So we're here to help them, and we could just consider him a lone AOL.
Yeah,
That's what I did, Heather, is I spent because I had 12 and I knew that a lot of my scouts getting them to visit or do an overnight was rather difficult, so that's why it stretched out. I just reached out to like 5 different troops in our vicinity and I just said, "Hey, I need help with this adventure." And then I just kept trying and trying and trying, and I think I still have 2 kids left to do their overnight. Um,
Well, maybe he can hook up with Eva.
Yeah, there you
yeah,
go. We have a solution in the works right here. This
yeah.
is amazing.
Where you at, Eva?
We're in at Oak Hills in
Yeah,
Beaverton.
they're up north.
Okay.
Mhm.
That might
Yeah.
work.
Well,
I mean, it helped me because then, I was able, and then you had the Webelos Woods, so that kind of helped some, but it didn't fully,
right.
hit all the requirements. So I had them still, those scouts that went to Webelos Woods, I'm like, well, you didn't technically set up, you just saw a setup, so you need to
Hmm.
go camp again.
Oh, see, that's where I looked ahead. Again, like I said, I looked ahead and say we are going to camp out.
Yeah.
And when the coordinator of Weeblos Woods said, "Oh, Joe, you're going to love it because I'm putting the AOLs in cabins," I said, "Well, you're not putting mine in cabins. They're going to go set up tents." And they just downright got dirty and camped in tents and did like a regular Boy Scout patrol, scouting patrol. But Heather, we'll get you somebody. We can talk later. You can call me. I want to talk to you also about some another email I got. Your son's Eagle Board or
oh, okay,
hey, project.
great.
Yeah. So, does anybody else have any questions for me? I know I've talked a lot.
Yeah, we're going a little long, but we're here to answer questions. So go ahead and chime in if you've got others. I see
Jen or
Jen
Mike,
and Stephanie have been quiet.
Mike,
Go
Mike,
ahead, Mary. Mary, yes.
is there any place where we can get all this information that she just told us about in a
So
booklet?
So the breakout slides that we presented are available. I put them in the chat. I bet you can't see that on your phone, and I can
Mhm.
send you a link if you want to have a reference to that. This is also being recorded, so it will be on YouTube, and I can send out a link to the YouTube video if you want to live it all over again.
And he can also give me
Okay,
your email, Mary, and I'll
it,
send it to you. I'll send it to you.
because it would okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll have Mike give me your email.
sounds good. I'll do that too.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and listening to what I did for my group. And I hope that you can bring some of that into your groups and pass it along to the next person. Like
Yeah,
Eva's finishing up, so she's probably relieved. But maybe you can share some of this with the next person in your pack that becomes AOL in June 1st,
excellent.
right? Just give them the idea because the kids aren't out of summer break yet. They got 2 weeks left of school, right? Get them to have that Bobcat meeting. Get them to have a parent meeting. Well, before they start taking off on summer vacation. That's just words of advice. Get it
Yeah,
going and they'll be thinking about it.
thank you,
Okay?
Joan. Greatly appreciate your wisdom on this. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording first.